So at the lowest points, you need to be able to operate as your best self. And at the highest points, you can't get too high. If you're stable, if you're grounded, well, that's how you can go and build a great company. It's about staying leveled and knowing that things could go poorly at any given moment. And we're gonna have to persevere through that moment.
Alrighty, hello everyone and welcome to the Deal Maker Show. So today we're going to have a really amazing founder joining us. We're going to be talking about the building, the scaling, the financing, all of the above. I think that his story is quite impressive, very inspiring, journey too, starting with sports at a very competitive level, early on in his life. But again, brace yourself for impact because it's going to be quite the conversation. And without further ado, let's welcome our guest today, Teddy Solomon. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Alejandro. Pleasure to be here.
So born and raised in San Francisco, give us a walk through memory lane. How was life growing up for you?
Yeah, it was interesting growing up in the middle of a relatively big city. I think quite different from most people's experiences, but I had a relatively traditional upbringing, at least within the context of being born and raised in San Francisco. Growing up, I had a couple key passions of mine. I was never that much of a school guy. I was always kind of working on my own projects, and I was going and doing things outside of the classroom. So when I was really young, I got into ping pong or table tennis. When I was 9 years old, I went to this rec center near my house, and I met a guy named Lamb. He was 85 years old, spoke no English, and he taught me how to play ping pong at the age of 9. Over the course of the next decade, I ended up becoming a competitive table tennis player. I played in the Olympic trials in 2020, lost miserably, but still had the opportunity to really play at a high level, which was a great time. And I think other than that, I really was into college basketball from the age of 3. It was sort of my life's passion. I wanted to be a college basketball journalist. I was in San Francisco, went to elementary school 2 blocks away from the University of San Francisco, and had the opportunity to eventually build my own media outlet in high school and travel all around the country covering college basketball. That was my dream long term. And to this day, still one of my great passions, great hobbies. And, with it being April now, I no longer have any hobbies. So just trying to get right along now that March Madness is over.
So entering Stanford, Stanford was quite a pivotal experience for you, even though it didn't, obtain the desirable outcome, when you started it, because you didn't really go all the way. But give us, kind of like a sense of what happened there. So you enter Stanford, and then all types of stuff happens, that really pushes you into the venture world.
Yeah, I 100% did not expect to end up in the place where I am right now. Back in 2020, I arrived at college in a really weird time. My senior year of high school was when the pandemic hit. So March of 2020 was my senior year of high school. And then September of 2020, when college was supposed to start, we were in really the core of the lockdowns, the shutdowns, the COVID pandemic. So Stanford told us you can't come to campus. And that was crushing to me, somebody who really loved the concept of the college experience. I had seen that through my journeys covering college basketball. I knew that I wanted to get an experience with other people. I love people. I think people are interesting. So I wanted to go meet my classmates and not just live at home. So I got onto a Zoom call back in about August of 2020, and it was 100 people who did not want to just live at home. They wanted to go experience something akin to college, even though we couldn't come to campus because of the pandemic. And I got put into a breakout room on this Zoom call with a guy named Ashton. He was in Columbus, Ohio. I was in San Francisco. And I said to him, I'm like, Ashton, I've got this idea of a bunch of Stanford freshmen going and living in Scottsdale, Arizona. It is 116 degrees. It's super cheap right now. We knew we couldn't afford to live in the Bay Area on our own. And Ashton was on board. So we went and we convinced about 25 Stanford freshmen to move with us to Scottsdale, Arizona. And that is what led me on a pretty unbelievable journey over the course of the next few years. I guess touching on your point of how did I not last there that long? I initially wanted to be a college basketball journalist. Like I said, from the age of 3, that was what I wanted to do. I thought that was my calling. But it was when I arrived in Arizona and looked around me and saw, well, people are on Instagram where they post twice a year. It's a highlight reel. It's not a place where they really talk about anything real in their life. It's 1% of their lives. I use it. Other people use it, but it's entertainment. Zuck is in court right now saying it's entertainment and not social media. There was a giant group chat where maybe 3 people would speak because having grown up on social media, you're expected to present the most perfect version of yourself. If you can't do that, then don't say anything at all. So we said, well, there has to be another way. There has to be some way to bring community together in an authentic way to be able to encompass the 99% of things that don't make it onto Instagram and TikTok. And that's what eventually led me on the journey, which I'm sure we'll talk about, that led to me dropping out.
So let's talk about to the obviously you the whole experience happened during university, but I want to talk about to dropping out because here you are in one of the top universities in the world and dropping out of it. That's quite the decision. And I know that obviously that came out of a frat party out of all places. So walk us through the sequence there of events.
Yeah, so where I just left off was, we saw this problem in social media and we knew there had to be a solution. We wanted to be able to connect with our peers at Stanford. So we spent our freshman year going and building what we call Fizz, which is this private verified community. You verify with your .edu email. Once you're in, you can post images, polls, videos, GIFs, links, DM people, buy and sell, the whole 9 yards, like the one-stop shop for campus life. We always believed there had to be a way to build communities around shared experience, context, and identity, and school was the logical starting point when it came to that. So we spent our freshman year jumping around the country. We lived in Michigan, we lived in Tennessee, we lived in Florida, we lived in Arizona, we lived all over the country. And that was while we were building the app. Well, fast forward to summer of 2021, at 6 in the morning, me and a bunch of friends of mine, we walked around Stanford's campus and we threw flyers under people's doors at 6 in the morning. And the app, Fizz, which we had been building for the last 8 months, just exploded on campus. By dinner time, the majority of the school was on. It was outrageous. And we, being people who didn't even expect to end up in the startup or apps world, we were like, what do we do about this? And then within, 2 or 3 days, we had every single VC in Silicon Valley in our email inbox. We're like, what is going on right now? This is like, I want to cover college basketball. Like that's what my dream is. It was wild. We decided to not take money in that moment, but it was when we came back to school in fall of 2021 that I went to a frat party, the story that you're referencing there, this infamous frat party where I showed up. I gave my phone number to some people and I met this girl named Ela. She texted me at 3 in the morning and she said, you need to meet my dad. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's really interested in what you guys are doing. And me and my co-founder, Ashton, well, we were really intrigued by that. We had always thought, well, the reason we're not dropping out is we don't have that mentorship. We never wanted to be in the startup world. We just love our product and we love the reason why we're building it and the problem that we're solving. So I went and I met Rakesh, who was her dad. And after a many-hour conversation, he basically said to us, look, I'll put $750,000 into the company and I'll come on as the initial CEO of the company. All you guys got to do is drop out of school. And me and Ashton went back. We went to a whiteboard. We wrote out some pros and cons. And really quickly, we said, all right, we're leaving. And we dropped out of Stanford. No regrets. The rest is history. And it's been an incredible journey since. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Wow. So what ended up becoming Fizz? What's Fizz? Tell us, how do you guys make money too?
Totally. So Fizz is, again, this community platform where Gen Z can connect around their shared experience, context, and identity. It started with colleges where people are posting everything from parties, classes, memes, jokes, confessions, the whole 9 yards with respect to campus life. It has a peer-to-peer marketplace as well, which people use in place of the legacy platforms like eBay or Facebook Marketplace and things of that sort. It is effectively the one-stop shop for campus life used by almost every student at Stanford, Dartmouth, Tulane, SMU, Rice, Vanderbilt, Duke, you name it. These students are using it to know what's going on at their school. And again, circling back to the reason why we built it, We built it because we wanted people to have the opportunity to express the 99% of their lives that does not make it onto Instagram and TikTok. So what that means in practice is 30% of our weekly active users creating content and 25 million posts made on the platform to date. We've democratized the creation of content, and we've democratized information when it comes to campus life, where the president of the top fraternity on campus, they have access to the exact same information that the person who never leaves their room does, because it's this centralized feed where everything's in one place. It's all hyper local, and you know it's relevant to your own experience. In terms of the way that we make money, well, we've raised over $40 million over the years to be able to fuel our product initiatives and growth, and building out our team, which is now in New York, but previously was in Palo Alto. But what we also have been doing over the course of the past 6 months is we've said, well, we can build a new type of ads engine. We can build an ads business where the users actually like it, where we give something to the users and we work with companies that are synergistic with our user base. And we've had the opportunity now to work with companies like Perplexity, Kalshi, Quizlet, a Fortune 5 company as well. And we realized that not only can we bring in significant revenue through advertising, because there's truly no other way to go reach the entire student body at the top schools in the nation, or just, all schools in the nation. But we're also able to give something to the users. And whether that was a year free of Perplexity Pro or a month free of Quizlet Plus or whatever that might entail, we're building out a really cool ads business at the moment. So we're really excited about that.
At what point do you guys realize, hey, I think that we are into something here? I think that dropping out of school, wasn't that stupid after all.
Yeah. I mean, we always had a lot of confidence in what we were doing, but we never knew if it would go the distance. We were walking into a space where nobody succeeds. Literally nobody has since Snap. So we thought, well, social media, that's a really hard thing to do, but we're going to go give it our all. And I spent a couple of years jumping across hundreds of college campuses and just immersing myself in the college experience. And not just the Yales and Princetons of the world, but I would go to, Abilene Christian and Eastern Kentucky and, rural schools all around the US to be able to go and actually see, what do our users need? What do they want? And I think it was in August of 2022 when we did our first run of lots of schools to launch. I went to my friends at Stanford. I said, guys, we don't have that much money in the bank. We need help. We need you guys to help us launch at these schools. We're going to go 2 weeks. We're going to hit Yale, Princeton, Tulane, Rice, SMU, Wake Forest, Elon, Creighton, a bunch of schools all around the US. And it was when the app just blew up at each and every one of those schools over the course of 2 weeks. And we had only launched 4 schools up to that point. That's when I knew, well, there's something really special here. And really shortly after that, we raised our Series A, and then it was off to the races.
So tell us about the capital raising experience too, because obviously, first-time founders, it's not easy when you get out there and you're knocking on doors to get money. How was the experience too of going through the motions and raising all that cash? Because up until now, just to get a better sense, how much capital have you guys raised to date?
Yeah, so we've raised $42 million. We did that in 3 rounds, back to back to back. Our most recent round was 2 years ago, actually, and we still have 80% of that in the bank. So we have no interest in raising at the current moment. And we raised in the bottom market. We raised in 2022 and 2023, and people like to say, well, the best companies came out of that market because it was so challenging to raise. And to me, there were a couple really important things when we went out to raise money. One of them was the metrics speak for themselves. We have the engagement and retention of the top social platforms that have ever existed. We have the highest D30 retention in history in social media. And that is not easy to attain, and that does speak for itself. But from my standpoint, in terms of when I have the opportunity to go talk to investors, I'm always going to be really genuine about who I am. I'm someone who wanted to be a college basketball journalist. I'm somebody who dropped out at the age of 19 and started building this app at the age of 18. I'm somebody who has worn a suit and tie maybe twice in my life. It's not necessarily the typical person who might go to, Wharton and then start a company after that or whatever that might entail. I just care a lot about our users and our product. And I went to over 200 campuses around the US, and I liked to immerse myself and still like to immerse myself in that user experience. And investors are not that used to seeing somebody like me who's a college dropout, who didn't want to go into startups and did not want to go into tech, who just loves people and really understanding the like psychological experience behind why people need a platform like ours and why it changes their lives. Like the best moments that I have on campuses are when they tell me, like, look, I am not the most social person. I'm not somebody who goes out there and interacts with everybody on campus, but through Fizz, I've had the opportunity to interact vicariously with the community at my school. And that's really special, being able to see that. So by being authentic, by being genuine, and by being really in touch with our user base and letting the metrics speak for themselves, we were able to raise a lot of money. And we raised it quickly and had really hot rounds when we did as well.
So talking about hot rounds, how do you run an effective process? What has been the I would say the biggest lessons, to be able to be effective at raising money?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, any founder has to raise from a position of power. So you don't want to be close to zero. If you're close to zero, it's hard to raise money because the question is, why are you close to zero? And I think at the end of the day, uh, you need to find people who are going to add value to your company. I'm really happy about the people that we have on our cap table. I'm really happy about the people who we have on our board. They're people who add a lot of value every single time that I talk to them. They're people who are really supportive of my vision in terms of how I want to operate the company and are able to provide expertise because right now I'm not 19 anymore, but I'm still 23 and I'm still learning. I'm still really trying to understand exactly how do you do this well. But I think for founders, it's super important that to put yourself in a position where you're not going to be close to zero, and to put yourself in a position where you're not going to ever get to zero. You need to be careful about your cash. It's not 2020. It's not 2021 anymore. You need to run a lean operation. You need to be efficient. You need to grow only where you need to grow in terms of your team. And then you're going to have a great team of people around you who are going to get you to those milestones to get you to the next round. In terms of where we sit right now, every investor in America wants to lead our Series C right now. I don't want to raise because I see that, we raised a $25 million round 2 years ago and 18 million of that is in the bank. So given that we have over 3 years runway and given that we're nowhere near hitting zero and we could be profitable in 2 weeks if we wanted to just, pour the fuel on the fire for monetization, well, I might raise in Q4 of this year. I think it's likely that I do go do that. But for the time being, we're heads down. And being heads down is the best. It's when you grow the product and you grow the user base the most. So that's what I'm excited about.
And then also tell us about the team, how you've gone about building a team around you guys. I mean, obviously, coming out of Stanford, there's quite a network there. But how have you gone about building the team around you too?
Yeah, we have a really awesome team of people. It's about 25. Like I mentioned, we moved from Palo Alto just about 6 weeks ago, and all but one person that could move made the decision to move to New York with the company. So we're all in person here in New York. We have a combination of growth people, engineering people, operations people. Our VP of operations worked many decades in supply chain management. He's been with us over 3 years, and he's really held us accountable, I'd say, in conserving cash and being careful about it, and going and making sure that everything is operationally in line in the way that it needs to be. He's been an incredible addition to the team. Our head of product is a Stanford GSB grad who spent 4 years at TikTok, heading up creator monetization there. He's got unbelievable intuition for the product. He's been, again, an amazing addition to the team. And we just have a lot of really great people around us, people who care about the mission, people who are empathetic with the users, and a lot of recent college grads too, because you need that if you're going to build for this generation. You have to have the DNA within the company. But I'm definitely on the younger end of the people who are in here.
Now, what about location? Talking about New York. I mean, why? There's probably a lot of people that are listening to us and wondering, hey, am I in the right place? Should I move? Where should I start my business too? I mean, why New York? Talk to us about like that decision process of being like, okay, we got to be in New York.
Yeah, so I'm a big believer that the Bay Area is dying. And I will say that straight up. I posted that on LinkedIn. I have no problem going and notifying the world that that's my belief. And that's coming from somebody who spent 22 years in the Bay Area. I spent my entire life in the Bay Area until I moved to New York 6 weeks ago. What I mean by that is in New York, well, for our company specifically, we can get closer to our users. But we can also get closer to young consumer talent. If you are a young person, either graduating college or maybe you're 26, 27, 30, 31, you want to be in New York because you don't want to leave the office at 8 p.m. and see that the entire city is shut down. You want to leave the office and walk out into New York City and see that you can go to a comedy show, you can go to a bar, you can go to a restaurant. It's the greatest city in the world. You can do whatever you want to do here. We're also closer to advertisers in being in New York. So it makes sense for us to get close to advertisers, users, young consumer talent. And then we like the energy out here. The startup energy out in New York, it's go, go, go. It just keeps rolling. And there's a lot of partnering up with other companies. There's a lot of trading ideas with other companies and other founders and investors who are in the space. There are constant dinners, the startup bank out here. They really do a great job of bringing a lot of founders and investors together. It's been really cool to see. And in coming out here and having a team of people who, let's use our growth team, for example. We have one person who has been at the company for less than 1 year and 9 months. Everybody else has been here for 1 year and 9 months or more. They've been in our company a while. They had the Palo Alto experience. Now they're having the New York experience. And if you walked around our office and said, which one do you like more? They're all going to say New York. And that really speaks volumes. People love it out here. I think New York is on the rise and the Bay Area is dying. And I'm excited that we're here.
So obviously, here I want to talk about the future. No, we've talked about team investors. They're obviously, betting on the future that you guys are living into. So let's say I was to put you into a time machine. Now we are advancing, moving into the future, and let's say you're able to open your eyes and you are in a world where the vision of Fizz is fully realized. What does that world look like?
Yeah, I'll start by talking about the social space more generally and then what that actually means for us. So people ask me a lot, what will the social space look like in 5 years? And I tell them, well, there are 4 companies, but I don't know that they're actually social media companies. I think we're the only one. So Instagram and TikTok will still exist. Instagram and TikTok are the 1% of your life. Zuck, again, is in court right now saying they are not social media, that they are entertainment. It's not about your friends. It's about the influencers and the entertainment that you consume. And they will continue to be that. They will continue to be entertainment, highlight reels, 1% of your life. Then you've got X or Twitter, which is effectively trying to be a global news platform. It answers the question of what's happening now. We answer the exact same question, but we answer it on a hyper-local, on a meaningful basis. So when we say what's happening now, it's what's happening at the dining hall on my campus. It's what's happening on that street over there. It's not what's happening across the world, because that's not what Fizz is about. Fizz is about bringing people together around their shared experiences, around their shared context, around their shared identity. That's what we're really looking to do. So we recently announced in Forbes the launch of Global Fizz, which has actually been around now for 4.5 months, and it's been blowing up. We've seen about a 60 or 70% increase in daily active users over the course of the past 4 weeks. We've seen that cohort is absolutely exploding. And what Global Fizz is it says, well, this siloed product of just your school, that's not the end vision of where we're trying to go. We now have an amazing user base of people. We are the #1 college app, and nobody's there to dispute that. We now have an amazing group of communities that we can bring together. And then we can leverage those communities that are brought together around their shared experiences. For example, if I'm a student at Stanford, I not only care about the Stanford experience, but I also want to connect with students at Santa Clara University and at University of San Francisco, or at Princeton, at Yale, at Dartmouth, people who share something academically with me. I want to give people a space to be able to connect across whatever those lines are in terms of their individual school, while also keeping the privacy component. Because when Facebook opened up, they just opened up. We're not just opening up. We're crossing communities together while allowing people to keep their private experience. And that's not a college thing, that's a Gen Z thing. So we are getting ready to move beyond college as well. And we're really excited about that.
So let's say I bring you now into the past. Okay. And let's say I bring you back a few years ago when you were thinking about dropping out of Stanford. And let's say you're able to have a chat with that younger self, that younger Teddy, and you can give that younger Teddy one piece of advice before launching a business. What would that be and why, given what you know now?
I would probably say it's how you perform, act, think at the lowest points of the company that are going to determine how well the company does. I think the most important thing that I've learned over the past many years is you need to take the lows and the highs in moderation. So there are going to be a lot of low points. And when those low points happen, you need to be able to persevere and you need to be able to go make sure that the company is doing what it needs to do to not die, because death is the only thing that can truly kill a company. It's death. So as long as we're not going to zero, as long as the company's not dying, well, we have a chance. So at the lowest points, you need to be able to operate as your best self. And at the highest points, you can't get too high. You can't get too low with the lows and you can't get too high with the highs. If you're stable, if you're grounded, and you're just going to continue to push along, well, that's how you can go and build a great company. And I think back in the day, when we had successes, we want to celebrate, but you want to make sure that you're really staying locked in and that you're staying composed in those moments. And when we had challenges, it's like, well, you need to go find a way. And fortunately we did, but that's not necessarily something I knew when I dropped out of school. And nowadays we're in the best position the company has ever been: strong cash position, strong engagement, retention, lots of users. Everybody knows about us within the Gen Z social space, but it's about staying composed. It's about staying leveled and knowing that things could go poorly at any given moment. And we're going to have to persevere through that moment. So I think that's what's key.
Amazing. Well, this is fantastic, Teddy. For the people that are listening that would love to reach out and say hi, what is the best way for them to do so?
Yeah, they should reach out to me on LinkedIn probably. That's most likely the easiest way. Teddy Solomon, Fizz, LinkedIn. You'll see it on there. Always happy to chat with everybody. You may see me on a college campus if you are a college student, because I like to go and talk to our users and better understand what we're doing. I still like to go to a lot of campuses every single month, even though we're not launching in person. I get to talk to users and there's nothing better. So yeah, no worries reaching out to me via email or LinkedIn or however they want to.
Amazing. Well, hey, Teddy, thank you so much for being on the Deal Maker Show today. It has been an honor to have you with us.
Oh, likewise. It's been an honor. Thanks for having me.